Hi. Sorry guys, it's my my first time recording myself. I'm not very skilled at this. I'm still in the view. So as I was saying, there's 5 parameters for each one of the tasks. The parameters are there's within the 12 parameters there's 5 cognitive components, and they are memory of instructions. The client has to remember, obviously, the instructions you gave them. Organization, that should read organization of time and materials. Attention span, evidence of thought disorder, ability to abstract. That's just one of the questions you're supposed to ask. You know, what kind of a task was this? Then there's 3 performance components, which are task completion, errors, and efficiency. And there's 4 effective components, which are motivation and compliance, frustration tolerance, self-confidence, and general affective and behavioral impression. So let me keep going. So the next one is money. The person has, you give them a scenario, very direct instructions. The scenario is that they come to a store. You give them a certain amount of money in cash. They have a list of things that they have to buy. Shampoo, toothpaste. Again, toothpaste back then was 78 cents. Bread, apples, eggs, soap, and peanut butter. And they have to figure out how much they're supposed to pay for all of it. And you're supposed to give them less money than is needed. And then they're given a check, and they're supposed to figure out how much to write out, and you have to watch them write out the check. And again, you rate them on the same 12 parameters. The next one is you're asking the client to draw a floor plan for a house, and it can be any sort of setup that they want, and it's got to have all these specific rooms, like laundry room, a kitchen, playroom, bedroom, and so on. And again, they're given ruler, magic markers. Check out these magic markers from the 80s. And they're given a certain amount of time, and you rate them on all the same 12 parameters. The next one is block design. You're supposed to lay out these cool blocks. They're not coming out. These cool little plastic blocks in a specific design, and the client has some time to look at it to remember what it is, and then lay out and repeat the design on this piece of paper and fit it within the box. And once again, you rate them on the same 12 parameters. And the last one is a kinetic person drawing. So you give them a blank piece of paper, and they have to draw a person in motion. This person has to be doing something, and it can't be a stick figure. So that's a very open kind of task. And again, you rate them by the same exact 12 parameters. And then you, as you're doing all this, you're filling out these endless pieces of paper. And for each one of the components, you rate them on a scale from 1 to 4. And you calculate scores for each one of the components, for each one of the parameters, and then you add them all up together, and you get the total score for the first part, for the task assessment, for the TOA. So moving on to the second part. How are we doing this time? So moving on to the second part. The SIS, you're supposed to observe the client in 5 different social settings and rate them based on 7 functional parameters. The first one is one-on-one. Actually, the first doing the first part of the test can count as one-on-one. The next one is mealtime. So you're supposed to sort of kind of observe the patient without the patient knowing that you're observing them, because that will kind of screw it up. What else? Third is the unstructured group. Fourth is structured activity group. and fifth is structured oral group. And you're rating them based on 7 functional parameters, as I said. The first one is verbal communication. Second is psychomotor behavior. Next one is socially appropriate behavior. Then response to authority, how they're kind of interacting with the group leaders and maybe medical personnel. The next one is independence. Then ability to work with others. And finally, participation in groups and activities. And again, you're rating them based on each one of the component on a 5 on a scale from 1 to 5. And again, you add it all up together, and you calculate the total score, and you get the total score for the second part, for the CIS. And those are 2 separate scores that the person gets. So in terms of how to interpret the scores, what do the scores mean? That's kind of like the biggest question. You get these 2 numbers, what does it mean? So the idea is that there should be 3 ways of looking at the numbers. The first one is to look at the examination parameters and component scores. So, for example, you can notice that a person has particular strengths in, let's say, time management or organization of the materials, but in all of the activities they, let's say, lose concentration and they end up, staring at the window or something. So that's a conclusion you can make based on the parameters. Or then you can look at task scores. You can notice that, for example, a person does very well in closed tasks, like doing the repeating the pattern, but in open tasks like drawing and drawing a floor plan, the person's sort of lost and they don't know what to do. So that could give you a clue as to where some of the problems may lie. And then the third way of interpreting the scores is to compare the person's score to the norms. And again, as I said before, that's a big problem because the norms aren't very good. In terms of settings, so if you read the manual, it's sort of boasting that it's used in all of these. This is the second edition of the manual, so they're talking about how it's used in all these settings. It's sort of universal, blah blah. But frankly, it looks like magical thinking from the creators of the test, because in research, the only places that I saw it as inpatient psych, there was some in skilled nursing facilities, and obviously it's used in research. I would assume primarily for the research of the tool. So one interesting study that I found looked at 7 reasons as to why facilities use the Bay Area. I'll be wrapping up really quickly. So the first one is kind of funny. It's the department policy. That would make me use the tool. The second one is that it's quicker than other tools, which is a little bit strange. As I said before, it's very long to administer. I don't know what other tools they use, but if this one's the quickest, I don't know. So the next one is a screening to determine intervention. Kind of makes sense, sort of. The next one is that it's preferred by the multidisciplinary team. It makes sense, but I'm not sure why particularly this tool is preferred to than any of the other ones. The next one is that it complements other life skill assessments, so they use a number of different tools, and this is just one of them. Number 6 is my favorite one. It's therapeutic medium to increase patients' self-esteem. That's just, that's pretty good. They spent $400 to draw, to put shells in cups and use a ruler to draw a sample plan. So that's to me that's very good use of resources. And the last one is that it's that the tool actually focuses on real action, not on self-report. So it kind of lets the therapist see the person in motion. Go to my next video and I'll be done in a minute.